Everybody, welcome back. In this video, what we want to do is show you how to take this LM Studio that's running on your PC and make it available to the internet. I'm going to do a couple of tricks here. I'm going to pop this over on this side. You've seen me do this in the previous video, but this time we're going to do something a little different. So what you can see right here is from the localhost models. I don't know what's going on here. Let's clear the logs. We'll hit refresh. Okay, so you can see that we're running localhost on port 1234. And I gotta make this bigger to shrink this to get this back. Okay, you can see that it's running on ports 1234, and you can see this over here in the URL bar. Here you can see version 1 models. These are the various endpoints that are available through here. So the first one is get v1 models. Next one is post chat completions, post chat completions, post embeddings. So those are the different endpoints or endpoint possibilities that's available to you on the server. And you use different ones for different reasons. If you want to get into all of that, go ahead and get a free copy of the book or pay for the copy of the book if you want it in print. And I go into a lot of that there. If you want an example of the chat, then go ahead and download and install based on my previous video, that there, and tear that code apart. That'll help and show you how to deal with it that way. In the next video, I'm going to get into Power Platform, Power Automate, Power Apps, that type of stuff. And so we'll try to wrap all of that up there. So the point of this video is, in using Cloudflare, we want to do something like this. I'm going to clear the logs, and I'm going to change this out to lms.davidsoden.com/vmodels. It is the same server answering on an actual domain name. And also, in addition to that, when you do it through Cloudflare, an SSL certificate is going to come along for the ride. So you can kill many birds with one stone with this simple strategy and or approach. So let's dig into this a little bit deeper and show you how to get this done. All right, so over in Cloudflare, let's go ahead and shut this down. I will digress just a quick minute. I would highly suggest considering Cloudflare to buy your domains from, because they will sell you the domains at cost. If you go to something like GoDaddy, they'll get you in like a lure, $1.99, 99 cents, or even free for the first year. But then they're going to renew at 15, 16, and 20 bucks. If you come over here to register a domain, I'll just type in foo to see what comes up. Let's try to find a .com here, Foolite. You can see that it's $10.44 today, and $10.44 at renewal. In other words, the price today is the price tomorrow. No games, no frills. It's just the true cost. When I first started using this, Cloudflare was like, I don't know, $8, $7, something like that. And it does go up because the costs go up, like everything over the last couple of years since COVID. Prices have just freaking skyrocketed. So in any event, they are what they are. That's the digression there. The reason for that is because if everything is in Cloudflare, then it's very easy. So obviously domain names do have a cost to them. What I'm about to show you with the Cloudflare tunnel, at least the way I'm going to show it to you, it's free. So what you want to do is come down here to Zero Trust, and I'm going to click on this, and this is going to take you to a completely different area. And I want you to click on Networks from this left sidebar. So we're going to click here, and you can see I already have a tunnel, but to create a tunnel is really simple. You want to choose Cloudflare on the left, not the Warp connector, which is in beta right now. Just select Cloudflare on the left, and then give it a name. You can call it like Home 2, and I'll just hit Save Tunnel, and this will create a second tunnel, okay? So here is the configure screen. I'm going to back out of this to go to the tunnels because I want to show you that the second tunnel has now been created. There's nothing connected, it's inactive, it is the way that it is. So if I click on this again, it's going to take me into this area, but we don't want to get there. We want to go back into the configure area. So to do that, you got to click on these vertical ellipses or the 3 dots stacked like a snowman. Click that and then choose configure, and that'll get you right back into this area so you can download the client. Now this is important. Where you've installed LM Studio, whatever your operating system is that you installed this to, you want to pick the right flavor. So if you're running Windows, obviously Windows. If you're running Mac, obviously Mac. This is where things are going to get a little squirrely. If you've installed LM Studio in Ubuntu, because Ubuntu is based on Debian, you're going to want to download Debian. If you're running, I don't know, something say based on Red Hat or CentOS or something like that, you're going to want to do Red Hat. Ignore Docker because for this use case, it's not applicable. But you can, if you have a use case outside of this, what I'm trying to show you in this video, where you're like, hey, I wonder if I can use Cloudflare tunnels with my Docker, blah, 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 blah. Normally I use Nginx or other things like that. But anyway, the point is, yes, you can use it with Docker. All right, that being said, you download it and you install it. And I said or showed all of that just to get us here. I'm going to delete this because I don't need to be there. I want to show you the configurations on the back side, though. Let's go back into, oops, I went into the wrong way. Here we go. So here is my lms.davidsoden.com. Okay, you can see this here. But if I go in to edit this, I want to show you what this looks like. So the first thing you do is you pick a subdomain. I have LMS. So whatever your domain name is, there's usually a www that goes along with whatever the name of your website is. Just think of the LMS as like the www. And that is called a host name. So if you have your server for your website answering for, I'm going to use let's use mine for the sake of this conversation. It says davidsoden.com. davidsoden.com is the name of my domain name, and it is also my server, and it has an IP address very specifically. And for good measure, we've for years have always said www is the host name for that site. So if I type in davidsoden.com or www.davidsoden.com, you ideally and really want them to go to the same place. Okay, so it's two ways to get to the same thing. But that being said, this is how it gets so confusing for a lot of people, is they think that anything that replaces www, like in this case, I put LMS, right? The host is the computer. Where is the computer? The domain name, the davidsoden.com, can be your personal web server. It can be anything. But you can have LMS1, LMS2, fooschnickens, whatever. You put any name you want in here, and each name can be its own separate computer or its own separate system running whatever. So if you got 10 things running in a web server on your computer, you can have 7 to 10 different domains, subdomains rather, here because they're all different hosts. So hopefully that was kind of clear for you. So if you've ever installed a bunch of server software on your computer, if you have, then this makes sense. Usually when you're dealing with localhost, you have to put them on different port numbers, like 8080, port number 3000, port this, port that. And that's how you can run all this crap on one machine under your localhost, because you're separating all these servers out with your port numbers. But on the internet, you can do it with port numbers too, but you usually want them to be user friendly, and people don't use port numbers too often on the internet. What they do is they use this subdomain technique or trick, and that's how you get from server A to server B to server C to whatever it is that you're running. Okay, so what you do is you put in whatever name you want, you bind it to the domain name that you want, and if you don't have one here, then you'll have to go ahead and provide some domain name and get that hooked up and get that wired through and working the way that it needs to be. For me, because all of my stuff is in Cloudflare, it's very seamless. I just can pick down from the drop down. All right, so in any event, after you pick that, then all you have to do is pick the local host. Now remember, I told you that if I did localhost models 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to cut this out and paste it in. See, it's HTTP. Let me pull this out so we can see this together. And over here. Okay, you see this is HTTP up here. That's also HTTP over here on the left side. You see this part right here, localhost :1234. That's where I have this localhost 1234. The /v1, v2, all that other stuff, those are the endpoints that's been established by the server itself. So the server's handling that. You don't need to configure any of that funny business right there. What you do need to do is configure something similar to this. Okay, so with that being said and done, and with the installation already running and set up, you should make sure that the status says healthy, right? And that you have configured at least one of these public hostname / private networks, okay? So public hostname is what we're dealing with here. Private networks don't necessarily, that's out of scope for what we're trying to show you here. But what we're saying is we want to take something that's public and make it work against something that's private. And that agent that I showed you or talked about installing when I said hit configure and then install one of these things for your machine, that's just going to run the software. And if you run it, like I'm on Windows, you see it installed Cloudflare here, and that agent is what connects to the backend Cloudflare service, and that's what gives me the status healthy if everything's working properly. The configuration of the name for LM Studio, that comes from the configuration of the public host name and this portion right here. And that's what enables me to take this local thing and point it to something that's public. So hopefully that demystifies how you can take something that's running localhost and then turn around and then convert it to something that is more public. So with that being said, now that I can access all of my endpoints publicly, then you can go ahead and run all kinds of cool stuff. Again, not very secure, at least right now. If LM Studio were to ever have a configurable way of putting an API key in, that could be a game changer, because now you can host large language models at home, secured with an API key. With the Cloudflare tunnel, I see it's pretty cool and probably pretty safe to use publicly or even in a production type setting. But for right now, it's not. Don't use it for production. Just use it for learning. All right, I'm going to see you in the next video where we're going to pick up, and what we're going to do is we're going to delve into the Power Platform, my favorite topic of all time, and we're going to create custom connector, a Power App, and show you some Power Automate magic to connect to this new API that's running in LM Studio. That's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.